Hello, Fabricating Universe. Dan Davis here at FABTECH. Thank you for joining our other Facebook Live event, rebranded Fabricator Live, which I always forget to call it that. Today we have as guests our friends at Salvagnini, starting on my right to the far end, Matt Klumpenstein. He's Vice President of Sales and Marketing. Kathy Etheridge, Head of Marketing for Salvagnini Americas, and Giovanni Piccolo, VP of Project Management and Applications. They're joining us today, and by us I mean Rob Coleman on my far left. He's editor of Canadian Fabricating and Welding, and Tim Heston, senior editor of the Fabricator magazine, and I'm Dan Davis, editor-in-chief of Fabricator magazine. After all that, we're here to discuss a research study that we did in partnership with Salvagnini, looking at automation and metal fabricating. In the spring of 2021, we did a survey, or a couple surveys actually, reaching out to upwards of 19,000 emails sent out. We got 320 solid filled out surveys back, and in that, people were asked why exactly they were looking at automation, what were some of their pain points, and really exploring the issue of why fabricators are considering automation in their facilities. So to get the conversation going, I just wanted to throw out there, Salvagnini obviously had interest in doing this. Why was this a good time for that survey?
You want to take that?
Well, I think
Good experience.
okay. I think that is always a good time speaking about automation, because automation is about progress, evolution of the processes, right? I think that the pandemic, anyhow, has highlighted how fragile we are in terms of labor, and to keep the costs down, etc. People start really to think broadly about automation. We as Salvagnini, we always apply automation. My first time in Chicago was 1985. Already at that time, we have had an automated production line, which now is one of our most famous products, right? And the people at that time didn't really get it. They said, like, it's too far, it's too big for me. Now they start to see how important is to do automation. And I think also because the society has changed, the way we make purchases, etc., the people are any more scared to use and introduce technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, industry scuttlebutt suggests many people were looking at it because of the pandemic, issues related to that, inability to find workers. The survey revealed mixed messages. What is your take in terms of like communicating with Salvagnini customers and why they may be considering automation? Maybe even reflecting upon what you're learning at the show today.
Yeah, well, I think we had a discussion early on, and there's a lot of people that were talking about why you automate. And, in our early discussions, we were saying, automation is not a light switch. You don't automate or don't automate. It's a journey. You go into it, and it depends on where you're going into that journey. But a lot of times when we talked about that, almost everybody says, oh, we automate because we can't get skilled laborers. But in our conversation, we went, is that really true? So this survey was kind of a test to that. Is that really true? And I think it proved that it's one reason, but it's not the exact answer that people were saying. People are automating because it elevates their trifecta. And that trifecta is price, delivery, and quality. And it used to be, okay, you can have 2 out of 3. But those companies that could embrace improving all 3 know that they're going to be around in the future. And that is really the move that they need to make. And I think that's what the survey really brought.
What's that feel like in the booth today? Is that kind of becoming very evident in terms of the people walking in the Salvagnini booth, Matt?
For sure. I mean, today we see not only we see a lot more buyers that are coming into the booth, but a lot more CEOs, a lot more presidents. Before companies would send their younger engineers up here to just kind of investigate. But today they're really out there to try to understand what options they have become available to them. So for us as an automation company, we're able to show those various layers of automation, from automating tool changes to a fully automated system to a true FMS type of systems in our booth.
Right. I think one of the more interesting things that I found during the survey was the acknowledgement that different companies will put different people of experience levels on these machines to run. So, some might think, there's $1 million machine, I'm gonna make sure I know somebody who's been around the shop a while to take care of it. Other instances, people find it maybe user-friendly enough that the inexperienced worker might be able to kind of man that. Is that something you see in the customers coming in, maybe the fabricators you've dealt with in the recent past?
I've seen owners, I've seen operators, I've seen engineers. As being an owner of a company, I'd want to be out there to understand my technology as much as possible.
Right.
Engineers are out there to understand the entire process. Because it becomes a quality. It becomes speed, it becomes velocity, and repeatability. So those are the kind of things the engineers. Then from operators, the fact that we've created a system with HMI, which is more of like an Android or iPhone type of interface, which the newer, younger operators are more familiar with it, and that helps them become more comfortable with the large or the automation that's being presented to them.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about PART in our booth, and it's an acronym, but at the end of the day, we understand that it's about the part. It's about the part that everyone's making and how well and fast they're making that part. But part can also mean precision. The parts need to be precise, the machines automated and reliable, and technology has to be easy to use, and state of the art. And that's absolutely why the experience level isn't so important, because vendors are, like us, are being forced to actually put that type of technology that's easier for them to use and get on there, so they don't have to have the experienced operator.
Yeah.
There is another thing that I like to highlight. When we speak automation, we have in front a machine that make the thing autonomously, right? No labor. Well, this is part of automation. More often now, when we speak automation, we speak of all the process of the factory, from order to delivery. Mm-hmm. Which means also automation means also must have a good software, CAD/CAM software, which we always have been there, and people come with good questions about it. And most importantly, now what the people want is that their ERP use our system like a 3D printer. So when they get the order, this already process become a job list, and this goes to the machine. Therefore, not only you save the labor on the machine itself, you save also a lot of labor in the logistics to make the factory run.
Industry 4.0, really.
And doing our case studies, so this research report is available at thefabricator.com/automation. So if you're interested in following up and taking a look at that, please feel free to do so. We'll remind you before we end this today. Tim and Rob, the case studies that you worked on that accompany the research study tie upon a couple of the points that we hit over here. And I think the one that kind of stands out, we were chatting with each other before we did this, but the ability to kind of take new employees and utilize them to the greatest ability, but also provide them with a career path. So, yeah.
I'll follow up on that with, I talked to a company called Vanderbilt in California. It's a very large custom fab shop. They had an interesting take where they're actually building, they had a separate facility that had a whole bent toward, they called it their automated facility. But with that automated facility, they also hired a training manager that came not from manufacturing, but actually from education. And he had skills not necessarily in manufacturing, but in communication. And so what he did is he interviewed all the old-timers, I shouldn't call them old-timers, experienced people throughout the facility who had been there for years, because it's a very successful shop in San Jose, California, not the cheapest place to make sheet metal parts. And had interviewed all these folks saying, all right, how do you really use a press brake? How do you really, and then, and so built that knowledge base, communicated that to the young generation. And then that young generation also learns the new automation. They built their whole new curriculum. They kind of lift everybody up. Sales per employee has gone through the roof, and they see that as the future of the company. So it's really, really very interesting. And I know Rob talked to Casa Santa. I'm sure he has some.
Yeah, and not so much on that side of things, but I'm reflecting on some of the things you were talking about quality and making sure you're lifting the company up, lifting up your product, making sure it's the best it can be. One of the things that Castaneda was talking about was, well, they looked at other things that they could change, but they weren't gonna not get the best electronics for that. Casa Santa is a company in Ontario that makes bakery equipment, and they compete against companies in Europe and elsewhere in the world who make very good quality products, and they had to maintain the same quality of product. And the way to create an advantage for their customers worldwide is to automate, and that was the thing that made the most sense, because they weren't going to cut corners anywhere else. That just didn't make sense. And then once they did automate with their first system, which is a very sophisticated system from Salonini, it made them realize that it took away some of the fear that everyone feels when they first think of automation.
Right.
Because they think, okay, this is going to be complicated. We're going to be intimidated. Our employees are going to be intimidated. But again, Robert Casasanta, the company who I talked to, he said, we hire people that we want to grow, and they're enthusiastic about growth, and they really embraced this technology, and it helped them to think about how they could develop their own products, and how they could develop their own their market share and move into different industries that they didn't work in before. So they've expanded their horizons in a lot of ways, because they realize they have this equipment that can do this work. Well, what other businesses can benefit from this technology that are close to us? And that's what they've done. And they've grown exponentially. I mean, it's been remarkable.
Yeah,
From
so they're
30
beyond
people,
bakery equipment now. They do
Way beyond bakery,
fabricating,
yeah.
and they've been able to expand it. Yeah.
custom fab, other industries, and an employee base that's gone from 30 people to 120.
Yeah.
So they aren't cutting
Right.
employees. They're growing and giving them the chance to think through, how can we grow more intelligently? We've got this freedom now. We have the time to think about how we can grow in other ways, and that's how they benefit from it. So it's remarkable.
And Vanderbilt had something similar with the expansion. They're actually looking to open a plant east of the Mississippi somewhere.
Yeah.
They aren't allowed to give specifics, but they're using that automated plant in California as a baseline of this is the model we're going to expand to the East Coast. So it's very interesting.
They're a large company as well, right?
Oh, very large, very large.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of different motivations, I think that the research study kind of revealed productivity, modernization, skill levels in certain. I mean, the reasons are many and varied, and that's truly reflective of the metal fabricating base, in the sense that everyone's got different customers, different objectives, and I think the one thing that really I find interesting, the research study, we found welding was the greatest constraint right now, and why would Salvagnini be interested in like that type of that portion of the metal value creation cycle? But I think you have to think of it holistically, and so by precision, as you mentioned, and maybe you can comment on that, precision through the early parts of the fabricating process, by the time it gets to the welder, indeed you can add value there. So
If I can speak about welding. Welding is, as you said, one of the most labor-intensive activity in sheet metal, right? But why is it so difficult? Because the ability to keep the part in good position to be weld, if you do TIG welding, this kind of welding, is paramount. Now, with our technology, we have full control, for instance, when we speak of bending, to make always the bending lip to be repeatable. Even if the material change, and material does change from batch to batch, from supplier to supplier, behaves in a different way, we are able to control the process, so every time the lip goes in the right position. Many of our customers witness, and I remember a Japanese customer that were doing stainless steel, they witnessed that yes, the part was 20% faster on the machine, but the flow was 50% faster, because they didn't have to fixture the part, they could weld the part free, and they really they were so happy, let's say indirectly, not outside the machine directly, but afterward. Another example, where you do parts which need to be interconnected, many times still the best tool in the factory is the hammer. You have to fix the part.
Yeah.
Well, it's no more the case, because if you have control, you know, and this is where we have put a lot of research to understand what is the material. You can always have part one good, and I
Yeah.
think part is
Right,
reflecting
precision
this.
on that, right. And design for manufacturing too. I mean, that's another option. We've taken a lot of customers that have a lot of wells, redesign the parts so that you don't have to have that many. And these can interlock together so that it's a better system. And in some cases, it's been adopted, you know, industry-wide.
And the next problem is now you move that from precision fabrication to reliability, repeatability. You solve the welding problem, now it becomes a paint and an assembly problem.
Right.
So
Right.
that just continues to move down the line. So,
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap this up, why is it important for the continued adoption of automation technologies for metal fabricators? What's at stake?
Well, to me, it's the trifecta. It is, if you do not move forward into the best technologies and invest in yourselves, other people will be investing in themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to be around tomorrow to expand from kitchen, you know, bakery to other fabrications or improve your systems, you have to invest in yourself and look at automation to do that.
I mean, just look at the evolution of manufacturing job shops. I mean, where you started out, you know, from some guy. There was an article the other day where he took a shear and he was cutting it by hand, and then came along the punches, the lasers, then
Right.
the automatic forming machine. It's just a constant evolution, you know, of manufacturing with sheet metal technologies.
Right. We had a panel discussion roughly around midday.
Sorry to hit you.
Speaking about
Okay.
the situation of metal fabricating economy right now, higher steel prices, and obviously that tied into other things, finding skilled workers. You know, it's all kind of connected.
Right.
And an audience member got up, and the general point had been made that and that's automation, software to deliver real-time data. We're all going to be key to stay on top of the volatility that metal fabricators have to deal with. The fabricator got me and he goes, "Is there a soft deadline as to when this might be?" Which I thought was very inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, so officially, when am I going to be late?
Is there a Y2K here?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But I thought it was asked in a sincere way, and I thought there's something to that. That, you know, the point being is that if they're not kind of engaging now in this, you know, people are already moving on to solving their other constraints. It's not blank forming for them. They're already further down the line. So you're almost finding yourself chasing people who are leading in either your geographic area or the industry sector you serve. So I mean, it is, you're seeing it on the shop floor or the show floor, I'd imagine.
Right.
Sending in all that indications. And one last question, I guess, in the Salvagnini booth, I guess there's examples. I mean, obviously, Salvagnini's been a company that has kind of developed that type of technology. And this year, I was speaking behind as you were doing a presentation on the automatic tool chains and the press brake. So, yeah, it just keeps pushing forward, I guess. And that's, we can expect to see more of that, I assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
A lot of great
Well,
things.
any questions, Garrett?
No question, just one comment. It's regarding that it's a great topic and how metal fabricators are just going to have to adapt regardless of.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in that conversation during our panel discussion at midday, Gareth was commenting that someone had left a note saying that, you know, people do have to kind of get involved with this, and I don't think people take it as like a lecture. They kind of know.
Right.
So it's not
Well,
like
you know, yeah.
it's a difficult thing, but this business is difficult. It's not.
But I think you're not alone. You know, there's
Right.
a lot of people out there, you know, who want to help you and show you, and you know, just walking around. You know, thank goodness we're all here. You
Right,
know?
right.
But walking around, there's so much energy and enthusiasm to share the knowledge. Look what we've done, and you know, competitors or you know, colleagues. It doesn't matter. It's a great movement. It's
I
a
think
great
being
time.
here is a big point.
Yeah.
For sure. You know, keep an open mind. You know, that's what we want to tell our
Right.
people out there, our customers. Just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
You know, there's not one
Let us help
machine
you.
for everything. You know, you can only take it so far.
And you're never going to solve it
You're
overnight.
not
Right.
going to solve it overnight.
But we're all here to help.
Yeah. So once again, that research study can be found at thefabricator.com/automation. And I'd like to thank our guests, Matt,
Thank you.
Kathy, Giovanni.
Thank you.
Tim and Rob. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Who do we have? I'm looking at my executive producer, Larry Meyer. Yeah, I was told to remember who was going to be on tomorrow, and I didn't.
Amanda Carlson and Barbie.
Oh, Amanda Carlson, editor of The Welder, will be interviewing welding influencer Barbie the Welder, which is, you'd expect somebody from The Welder to be interviewing Barbie the Welder. That'll be at 2 p.m. Central Time. In the afternoon, we have...
That's it.
Oh, that's it.
We'll come back if
Yeah.
you want. We're
There's a
happy to
rumor
talk
we may
about
have
it.
something at 1 p.m. Central, so stay tuned.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. All right,
go.
thank you very much. See y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.